So Guy Biederman is our second feature tonight. Guy has written 5 collections, or he's the author of 5 collections of short work, including Soundings and Fathoms from Finishing Line Press, 2018, Edible Grace, KYSO Flash, 2019, and Nova Nights, Nomadic Press, coming out in next month. Fabulous. Tony's Flash has been nominated for Best of the Net, and twice he's been a Flash 405 winner. More than 150 of his stories and poems have appeared in journals such as Carve, Flashback Fiction, McQueen's Quinterly, and others. Guy was born in the Chihuahuan Desert near Mexico and grew up on a stingray in Ventura. He learned to write in the Peace Corps during the Guatemalan Civil War, honed his craft as a gardener in San Francisco, and received his MA from San Francisco State, where his teaching career began. For 12 years, Guy published the literary magazine Bust Out Stories, plus 12 books by Bay Area writers. Guy lives on a houseboat with his wife and Salty Cat, where he writes and does Tai Chi and takes beautiful photographs that he shares with us. Please welcome Guy Biederman.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're very welcome.
Free verse departure. Poets bring nothing to the party. They don't even ask. They show up on time or late. They get lost. They say they're coming, but don't. They arrive in time for food, stand in a corner and drink, never take off their coat. Then strip to a t-shirt and talk about Bird, things you've never heard, as Parker plays on your Alexa. Sometimes poetry breaks out. Someone picks up a guitar. There's action on the roof. Shy cats come out of hiding. An enormous radish is carved into art. Memory floats up from an afternoon in Oaxaca, 1984. The houseboat rises, warms. Then everyone leaves all at once in a free verse departure. A sink full of dishes, someone leaves a hat. The night itself becomes a poem. And guess what? That's what the poets brought. This to a poem. Speaking truth at the mic, with notebook, with guitar, with type page, with iPhone, with hands shoved in pockets, with 2 a.m. approaching, with knowing anything done after midnight is art. The madness in the moment, the self-haircut, the can of beer, the fighter, the math teacher, the queer poet whose voice is pure song. The geometric performance of truth and what we say is the truth. Rocking in your back row chair, you go to the front to lend your voice, sing your song, speak your life. Join the fiber of this night, this midnight mic, this pure grain flow you come to know when you look this close and listen. The lives you see, the colors you feel, rhythms alive in the air, people like you, people not like you, poets off the street, army of letters, word delivery, bringing it, winging it, singing it, behind the night, the mic tonight, or how we know we're alive. I want to thank Sandy and Clay and John Crowley at Aqus Cafe for this opportunity tonight, and what you do and have been doing, you know, every month, several times. It's amazing. And I want to thank everybody for being here too. It's, you know, on this shortest night, or I should say this longest night, the shortest day, it's a wonderful opportunity to be here tonight and to bring a little light. So I want to thank you for that. This next piece, it's called Poem Repairs, and it just appeared in Peking Cat Literary. The scaffolding around the house never comes down, permanent fixture, part of the furniture. Apparently, there's no end to repairs. Last year's leak over the stairs moved to the ceiling above the dining room, leaving deco goth stripes running down the walls. Shingles above the front door were no sooner replaced when the awning out back eloped with a 40-knot wind. Life in the fast lane. Always work to be done. At some point, life becomes maintenance, writing a poem an adjustment, a small remodel where feelings and perceptions dwell. No work to be done by licensed contractors, no permits, nothing subbed out. It's a do-it-yourself daily project, though you do draw the line at tarps. Like blue tarp Buddha on the house painter's roof, tarp flapping in the wind, concrete sculpture inscrutable, calm as cement. Pretty soon, you can't say when, it's just one of those things that happens. You get used to it. We're hardwired evolutionaries. You come to see scaffolding as part of the architecture. The neighbor's tabby comes to see it as a catwalk. At Christmas, you string it with lights. House painter's blue tarp Buddha gets a Santa's hat. You swear it cracks a smile, though that may be concrete aging. Like so much of life, like anything really, it depends on how you look at it, how you brick and mortar the words as proof to catch up with a reality you like. Words as scaffolding to buttress the wall of opinion, the drywall of belief. So far, last year's repairs over the piano are holding like a pantry stocked with canned goods, chowder, minestrone, baked beans, and black olives. Who the hell bought the tuna? You glance at the cat. You feel ready for dry rot and wind, rain and leaky pipes, pestilence and plague, ignorance and arrogance, rejection, acceptance. Future repairs of any and all nature, destined to appear in your forecast. Scaffolding grows on you, grows on the house. Form follows function. That's what you tell yourself, and soon it's true. True, it's not how you drew it up, but neither is the Ducati in the living room. Neither is his palm. Cats are grateful for the scaffolding that never comes down, and eventually neighbors don't care. Daily, you go about the pages of your life, making an honest living, doing small poem repairs, like a fisherman who mends their net before setting out each morning to see what they will find. Speaking of cats, well, it's always interesting when you work with an editor, especially when that editor is a cat, your cat. This piece appeared in McQueen's Quinterly, I think about 2 months ago. And it's called In So Many Words. Yeah, it's flash fiction. You're in for a hard rewrite, says Pierre the cat. Metaphorically, I ask, like this poem or life? For clarification, he walks across my chest, licks my earlobe with his sandpaper tongue, his paw catching on my flannel, as if that's supposed to answer my question, clear things up. It's part of his craft, his editor's technique. Why so many words, he says, but it's not a question. He takes his time extricating himself from me pinned in my favorite chair, coffee cup just out of reach. Then he settles across my journal and type first draft with the pen. When Pierre pulls out the pink fine point, adverbs tremble, adjectives pray. I've hidden the red, can you imagine? You want to talk about craft, he says, try writing without any words, without paper. Try living next to a beginning sax player who doesn't know the meaning of not playing. Sometimes Pierre sees metaphor on a different frequency. He looks at me with unblinking yellow eyes. It takes discipline to write, he says. It takes discipline not to write. You should try it sometime. He looks away, licks a spot he missed on his paw. Let's be clear. If rewriting is getting to know yourself all over again, then let me introduce the two of you. He yawns. Pierre's lost all vestiges of his feral origins, but he's a tough as nails editor. He leaves the manuscript and hops back on top of me, licks his other paw, then his chest, then starts to lick himself down, reaching places I never dreamed of. Are you showing off now, I ask? He stares. Who knows what he sees? Those yellow eyes speaking truth, wordless, that 60 grit tongue rounding odd corners, applying a smooth, fine finish, showing me how it's done. Can I at least refill my coffee cup, I ask, down to one free hand, my torso under siege. Not a big cat, a dainty killer, in fact. Pierre somehow grows heavy on you. His purring I take as a no. Pinned by exponential weight, his whiskers brush against my cheek and tickle, but I know better than to laugh. His sudden dismounts are four-claw affairs, sometimes draw blood. Editor's red, he calls it, his personal copy editing marks. Craft is physical, catnips for later. Eating grass is the best way to purge, he says, addition by subtraction. And purge you must. He eyes my manuscript, my words, as he moves to the Asian rug, flexing his claws. Keep your claws sharp, commands Pierre. Know when to stop. Oh, and work on your indifference. Don't just kill your little darlings, as your beloved Faulkner once said. Have a little fun with them. Bat them around. Scare the precious shit out of them. Pierre gazes out the window, his back to me. Who knows what he sees? I once wrote a story, he says, and it went like this. Pierre walked down the streets of Kathmandu. Dogs cowered in the shade. Pierre's walking still. End of story. His tail flicks. Every story, every dream, every poem I've ever written has been the same, retold. Meaning, he says, is a shadow you can't grasp. Pierre saunters into the kitchen, leaps onto the counter. Anything made smaller's better. Tumor, hairballs, poems, remember anything. Except breakfast. So, he growls. You got any king salmon in the house, writer? That too is not a question. And so I rise.
That's great.
I think I'll finish. I have two short pieces. One's microfiction, one's lyrical microprose, as the editor called it, and they make me think of the solstice. This one's called "We've Got All Night." I'm cracking eggs and buttering bread and peeling tangerines, keeping an eye on the timer. Coffee cakes in the oven. The air smells cinnamon sweet with a hint of something or other burning on the stove, who knows. DJ's in her robe, out of bed for the first time all day, and so we're having breakfast for dinner, her favorite meal. I'll be surprised if she eats more than a bite or two and doesn't just push the rest around the plate to make it look like her appetite has returned. It's dark outside, but not late according to the clock. These deep December nights feel late no matter the hour. The year's still in descent. Dark and getting darker. Late and getting later. But I stop it right there. Not time actually, but the thought descending. No need to go there. Negative will find you, so will grim. No need to stir that toxic stew. And then the timer beeps. And this time I reach out and I do stop time for a moment, pulling out the coffee cake, DJ's recipe, the kitchen sweet with brown sugar cinnamon, and DJ's smile. She inhales deeply, gratefully, and so do I. Time slows down. I set the cake on the counter to cool and admire the dark brown streaks on the golden surface. In no hurry. We've got all night. And this will be my last. And it's called Second Place, and it'll be in Nova Nights. It comes out in January. My wife asks if I'll read a poem, something positive by that poet, Mary Oliver, I ask. She nods. We're sitting in the living room with coffee in our robes, the sun not up quite yet. I open a copy of Why I Wake Early, always within easy reach, and share Oliver's poem of wonder. Just a minute, said a voice. Stumbling over a word or two, but even in my clumsiness, can't hide the beauty or mar the magic of this wondrous piece. My wife smiles, eyes closed. I reach for my journal that looks like a book and read her another poem. One I wrote moments earlier while she was still in bed. A poem about questions, answering questions about coffee and cats and figure eights, my go-to groove. She smiles, opens her eyes. She likes the first one better. I grin, tell her the second one was mine. Sorry, she says, chagrin, both of us laughing. But it's not bad coming in second to Mary Oliver, even when there are just two in the running. And that second poem led to another, the writing not over, the wondering on the rise, the early sun now just beyond our window, peeking through the blinds. Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you, Guy. That was beautiful. Feel free to unmute. You can applaud.
Hey, Guy. Definitely.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. What a
All
pair.
right.
What a
Yes.
pair.
Guy.
Fabulous
Yay.
poems.
Excellent selection.
Yes.
Excellent.